Hey, how's it going? Okay, this is the third time that I've tried to do this. This is going to be one of those Spirit TV Critic episodes, and here's some little pertinent information. I hope that you're getting that because I'm not going to hold this up forever. As you can see, it's going to be based on around an episode, or a series rather, called The Code from ABC. That's your Australian broadcasting company. And it's going to be part 2 in my Paranoia series. And I don't know why it's taken me so many tries to do this, but I have been working on this. I mean, this is only part 2, and whoa, earthquake! And I actually have probably about 4 or 5 total episodes in this series. In the interim, I have been watching a lot of other people's takes on media, and it's been like really informative, really kind of humbling because I got a lot of zhuzhing up to do for what I do. But you know, my learning curve is steep. And just, hey, whoa, another earthquake. Just when we're gonna get, supposedly, I haven't gotten mine yet, but I was told it's alphabetical order, and I'm an S, so I'm waiting for a while. And I'm not like dying. I have a different situation than a person with a family that, you know, the people are unemployed, the parent, whatever it may be, and like many of the hundreds of thousands of people making their first visits to food banks. For the moment, I'm actually covered, but it would be really nice to get that stimulus money because it would allow me to do something I have not. Oh, excuse you, the kitty. It would allow me to do something that I have not been able to do. I'm saving, but it's a slow task, and so I'm not getting equipment or help that I need. Like, I would love to get a TaskRabbit with this stimulus money. It is just perfect that I'm going to actually have a little bit of, or have some extra money to do things and maybe upgrade my equipment right when I'm not supposed to go out, and neither is anybody supposed to either. So maybe there can be a TaskRabbit. I don't know if that's going to be any better than trying to work out a computer issue over the phone, just talking. Then, I mean, maybe it would be easier to FaceTime or Sketch, Skype, sketchy, whatever it may be, I don't know. But it'll work out, you know. I'll either figure the things out on my own eventually, because I am sort of endeavoring to do that. I do not like watching video tutorials because I have to rewind and, you know, try to figure out how to do the thing on the thing that I'm not good at that stuff. Anyway, here we go again. The Code. It is a story mainly of a pair of brothers, and one of them is an online journalist, and the other is a young man that seems to have some sort of Asperger to savant type mental bearing, and he's obviously like, you know, a full grown ass man, but he needs to be tended because while he's very intelligent and he's very facile with the computer stuff, he's not so good on the social stuff, and he's very impulsive, and he thinks that he knows what he's doing, and he goes charging out there, and he's like always wrong. Case in point, in the beginning of this, it starts out at the home of the two brothers, Ned the elder and Jesse the younger, Banks. And Jesse lives with Ned because he can't, you know, function solely on his own, at least not at the point that you see him in the first episode of The Code. And so you learn that Jesse has done some things online that he should not have been doing and got into trouble with the government and is restricted to completely barred from using a computer. But the brother that he lives with, being a reporter, is going to be using one, and it doesn't necessarily track that because he's an online employed by an online agency as a journalist, that he has to have a computer. But I mean, that's just kind of the way things are now. Anyway, in like the first couple of minutes, you learn these things about the brothers, and Ned, the elder, leaves the room for a moment, which leaves, at the same time, Jesse alone with the computer. And he even asks, can I go on? And the older one says, well, don't do anything wrong, don't get in trouble again, and leaves the room. And then immediately, Jesse's not on there surfing, he's like, beep boop, and he's onto the website or whatever the online home of the material he's gotten hold of, but it belongs to a biotech company called Fisanto, and if you get any hints from that, they are bad and evil. And also they're in cahoots with the government, but you don't know that right off. But I mean, this is in the first few minutes. Like, Ned is like, okay, you be a good boy, and leaves the room, and Jesse's like, beep beep beep, and he's already like, boom, he's into the encrypted zone. He's stealing the encrypted material on a zip drive. Doesn't tell his brother that he's doing this, of course. And so he's watching, how they do these things in movies where they have like the little temperature gauge of how much is being loaded onto the zip drive, and he's like, hurry up, because he doesn't want his brother to come back and see that he's doing it. And while that's happening, all of a sudden, on the computer, Fisanto's like, what the who's in our business? And they're like, oh, we know who you are, so, telephone, they don't know who's on the other end, but they know where the other end is, from, well, you know how that stuff goes in shows. I don't have to explain that, I don't think. And so the file finishes loading onto the drive, and Jesse rips it out of the computer right as Ned walks in and shuts everything off. But, he shuts off what on the screen is like the equivalent of flashing lights and bells and sirens. And shuts off the computer, and, oh yeah, I'm all done, everything's cool. And Ned's none the wiser for the time being. And what ends up happening is, the story has a lot of branches. I didn't look to see what city they're in. Well, too bad. They're in Australia. Watch the show. It's on Netflix. It's good, but they'll tell you where it is. I've already stopped and gone back and had to look up, and I told you I'm challenged at this stuff. But anyway, one of the other branches is that some people in the Outback, a couple of students at the one-room schoolhouse run by Lucy Lawless, whose name you'll recognize from Xena the Warrior Princess fame, and she's the school marm, essentially, and there's a pair of students, and they're a couple of indigenous kids, and they end up, just to ditch school and be together, they end up snagging the teacher's car, which that is a thing, because the boy, Clarence Boyd, is staying at the schoolhouse with Miss Wisham. Her name is Alex Wisham. And he's staying there while his mother's out of town, and that's why he's there to have access to her car. But he and the girl from the class that they're young love, they steal the car and, take off for a while to hang out and do that young love thing. And day turns to night, and they get into an accident. And the other party in the accident is a convoy, sort of, where there's a caution car in front of a what do you call those things? Well, it's a tractor trailer, but it's got chemicals on it, so it's not. It's a whatever. It's a truck with chemicals on it, and there's a lead caution car and a rear caution car, just like we have here. You'll, I'm sure, see them wherever you are in the U.S. Occasionally on the highway, there will be a car with a yellow and black caution sign, and then there will be a flatbed with a full-on house on it, and then a lead caution car, and that's great, but you better hope you don't get on a windy road and you're like on the side of the thing and the truck swerves and like the house falls on your car. But anyway, that's okay. I guess I got a little digressive with that, but that's the sort of thing that the two youngsters, Shayna and Clarence, run into in the evening on this road. And they have the accident because the young love, Clarence, is like Google-eyeing this girl and not paying attention to the road, and I guess the lead car veers off and takes off. It's a full-on hit and run, and they end up hitting the truck. And I think the truck is damaged so that there's a leak, or at the very least it would be a leak of information, because what they're doing with the stuff on the truck, they're doing in cahoots with the government, and it's, I think, totally illegal and harmful. And you know, we've experienced those things here in America, and I'm sure in every other country there's some level of this kind of deceit with corporations and government, the kind of handshake that ends up hurting the powerless people beneath all of that high level caste, basically your corporate entities and people that inhabit them, and then also the government. That's, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Like, the people are just expendable, you know, guinea pig fodder. So that's two branches of the story that both concern Fisanto. And then another branch of it is that Ned, of course, he doesn't realize that his brother has like totally jacked this encrypted information and that had he known, he would know that these people would be right after his brother, but he doesn't know. So he goes off to work, and he's like, I guess it would be the equivalent of the White House press pool, except that, you know, there they have a prime minister, who, by the way, just as an off, well, it's in the story, but it's sort of off of the main deal of what I'm saying, but the prime minister, I guess, is a boob, and everything he does has to be fed to him. They don't give him all of the information about everything. You know, he's fully scripted, and, you know, his people talk for him. I mean, he's very, like, curated and cultured and a figurehead, basically. Gosh, that seems like such a familiar scenario. Where would I know that from? Anyway, so while Ned is off doing his job, he doesn't know that the stuff his brother is involved with, that he doesn't know about, is kind of boiling on the side of the government too, because they know there's been this accident, and if whatever the contents of the truck were haven't leaked, information may have, because of the accident, like, you know, there's gonna be questions, because in the accident the girl is hurt and she's saying, I can't move, I can't feel my legs, I can't move, I can't undo my seatbelt, and the boy, Clarence, is freaking out. He's trying to free her and he can't do it, and then they're being advanced upon by the occupants of the convoy, or occupant, you will find later on if you should watch this. And the girl tells him, you know, run, just run. I mean, this is crazy. Like, she's just gonna be like, I'm hurt in this scary accident at night, and I already did all these things I shouldn't have done, and now it's even worse. And now I'm really badly hurt and I can't get out of my seatbelt. But let me tell my boyfriend, my only comfort, to go ahead and run away from me and leave me alone. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Maybe she hit her head. I don't know. But she is left there then to have bad things happen to her, like terminally bad, at the hands of, you know, the person in the convoy, who you will learn more about later should you go ahead and watch this series. And it's very gripping if you like political thrillers. And then, for me, it had a lot of cultural aspects that I found interesting, on top of like the heavy-handed government, the sort of biotech company without scruples, and then the people that work for both that are just craven and dishonest and, you know, adulterous at the very least. And there's a lot of like emotional, like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, one guy's having an affair with the ex-girlfriend of Ned, or maybe still sort of girlfriend. I'm not sure. They don't get too deeply into it, but you know there's a past. And it's just like such paragons of culture. You know, this guy's married, he's having an affair, he's mad at the guy that is the affair's ex, and it's just, I don't know, seems silly, but I guess it happens. There is differently abled people. There is a immigrant factor, and more heavy-handed pressuring by the government. On two hands, to do with another character who figures largely in the first episode, like right away throughout the whole story. And she is the daughter of Iranian immigrants, and they came to Australia for totally, I think, opportunistic needs on the part of the government, where they let them come under certain conditions, like whatever Hani's father was or was doing in Iran. I don't think I was ever really clear on, and I did watch the series a couple of times. Something to do with the government, where he had some kind of leverage that the Australians wanted, so they let him come. But Hani turns out to be the same kind of little computer scavenger snoop as as Jesse, and she has also gotten in trouble and apparently done some time. They're not real clear on Jesse did time, and I think maybe because of his like mental faculties, but there's no reason he couldn't have been somewhere. It just, I don't think it was ever clear, but she definitely did some time, and she doesn't seem to have the sort of social disconnect, mental health, or mental, I don't know, mien of Jesse with the Asperger's/savant type thing going on. She seems pretty darn regular, and they use her to threaten her parents, they threaten her family unless she goes after Jesse, and basically they send her out there like Mata Hari, you know, and it's semi-believable that they would end up being together, but I don't know, she's pretty cute and pretty normal and regular, and he's kind of a mess, and, you know, whatever, it's in the script. But she, that's when she appears, and she's had all kinds of things done to her by the government, and they can do that because they're immigrants from another country. Also sounds really familiar. Where did I hear stuff like that? Can't think of it. So there are some of the aspects that I found kind of fascinating and interesting about the show, and I will show you a short list of the cast because there are so many just in the first episode alone. And forget about the whole series. I mean, I didn't count them. I'm not going to. But these are the people that mainly figure in the first episode. I hope this is legible. And, I just think that it's a really good show that, you know, I have to commend ABC Australia for the way that they were able to cram so many details, so many twists, so much texture to the story in one season, where, you know, there's a lot of shows that you can watch that go on for years, and by the time of the end of their run, I don't know if the writers just pooped out or just different writers at all. I don't know what happens. I'm not in that business, but a lot of times you'll get to the end of what has been a pretty enjoyable run to just have it crumble and go nowhere and be a disappointing mess. And yeah, sort of like Well, never mind. I was going to make a bad sex reference or analog, but I'm not going to do that. Well, I guess I just did, but you're just unsatisfied at the end. And it really goes from A to Z pretty darn well in just one season, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. Oh yes, and why would this be part of the Paranoia series? Are you kidding me? I mean, just what I've told you, it's not even everything that goes on in the story is enough to parallel with your own real life wherever you are and be able to find some, you know, comparable instances of institutions of power over the people, oppressively in many cases, harmfully in many cases. I mean, let's face it, that's something that they've never stopped doing here. They had the experiments they did on the Tuskegee Airmen, which I think they were told they were being injected or fed pills or however they did it. Or somehow these people were given to ingest what they thought were probably beneficial substances and were actually syphilis for one, at least. Terrible. Or more recently, Flint, Michigan, the water just terrible. Or any of the native reservations here, particularly the ones where they're trying to put a pipe that'll be, okay, sorry, I don't want to get all there. That just gets me all tied up in knots. But you see what I'm saying. You know that these things go on, and often there's very little you can do about them, and you don't even learn about them until much after the fact a lot of times, unless there's something really extreme that happens that brings the events, usually harmful or in some way dire, to the greater attention of the public. And to me, that kind of equals paranoia. And so, like right now, when we're all kind of, supposed to be staying at home and not working and spending a lot of time indoors and likely for a lot of us in front of screens, it just, to me, it's like that thing where it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you have no light but the television light or whatever the screen is that you're looking at to watch your story, and they call it the witching hour, they call it the wee hours, I'll call it the paranoid hours. Like mostly people are asleep, it's very quiet outside, traffic has died down, and you're kind of more sensitive to those consciousness waves that are everyone, but it's being the hour that it is, it's low. And so you could find yourself sitting there in the dark feeling very small and very alone and maybe a little scared, thinking, what is gonna happen now? These entities have made this happen, or this thing, like this virus that's trying to, well, not trying to, it's successfully decimating society on a lot of levels, but maybe the things getting decimated are not that bad. I think we just have to work through a lot of stuff and figure out leverage against our certain oppressors. I'm not going to go into a whole thing about that here because that's not what I'm doing. But you get the idea. Like, these things are paranoid making, and just because you're paranoid doesn't mean it's not happening. Haven't we all seen that in some way, shape, or form? So, oh my goodness, I think I did it. I think I got everything out that I wanted to say. My hair is not a scary fuzzball. It's definitely doing, like, I don't know what right now, but I had just taken a shower and I'm just letting it dry. I don't want to do anything to it. So you're just getting, like, no frills, no product, just no fuzz. That's important to me. I think that's it. But I totally recommend it. It's on Netflix. And I would just like to say thank you and good night.